Hello everyone. In the field Literary Stylistics, today we will be discussing feminist stylistic analysis of fiction. This lecture will be divided into two parts. In part first, we will discuss the theoretical aspect of feminist stylistic analysis, like the framework of feminist stylistic analysis, the background of feminist stylistic analysis, and what is actually feminist stylistic analysis. And in part 2, we will be doing practically feminist stylistic analysis. It means that we are going to apply the framework of feminist stylistic analysis on a literary text. So let's begin and learn what is feminist stylistic analysis. Textual ideology and feminist stylistic. We now focus on how women are textually constructed because we will be focusing on literary texts. So we will highlight that how women are textually constructed by the author because we will examine authorial ideology through a feminist lens because every writer has an ideology. So we will highlight and we will see that what are the author ideology, and the authorial ideology will be examined through a feminist lens and using Sarah Mill's feminist stylistic framework. So we will actually explore ideological representation in fiction with how women are textually represented in fiction, and this representation of women is actually ideological. So we will introduce the feminist stylistic framework. What is the framework for doing feminist stylistic analysis? And we will also provide a checklist of analytical category. For example, when you are doing feminist stylistic analysis, so what are the things you are going to look for? You are going to investigate, you are going to probe. So we will also provide a checklist. So we will also analyze an excerpt from The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. But this will be done in the second part of this lecture. There will be a practical aspect of feminist stylistic analysis. So, understanding ideological representation in novel. Ideological influence in novel. So, a novel presents a version of reality shaped by the author's personal belief and ideology. So we see stories and we see reality, okay, or novel is actually a representation of reality, a version of reality. And this version of reality is actually shaped by the author's personal belief and ideology. Like what an author believes, what a writer believes about a woman, and what a writer or the author believe about a man. So you see that because the author is also the production of a social norms, cultural norms. So actually, this author or the writer gets like influence from society, and this influence of society, what he believes is right or wrong, can be seen in his work or in her work. So it says that a novel presents a version of reality, and this reality is shaped by the author's personal beliefs and ideology. What is his ideology? What is her ideology? What is his belief system? And what is her belief system? So, naturalization of ideology. Through its narrative, a novel subtly reinforces certain ideologies, making them feel natural to the reader and reinforcing how reader perceive character and events. So this is very dangerous. right? Because the writer, he or she shows you through text that something is very much natural. And when you perceive them as natural, actually these are ideologies. But when you perceive them that it is something natural, for example, if a woman is shown in a text weak, okay, repeatedly, she is shown weak, weak, weak. Or if a man is shown strong, repeatedly strong, right? So then you think it's something natural. It's not ideology. But actually, that it is ideology. But through naturalization of this ideology, we believe that something is true. It's very dangerous. So, role of language, ideological influence is embedded within the language patterns of the text, shaping readers' understanding and reactions. Said by Widdowson, 1992. Introduction to Feminist Stylistic and Gender Representation. Foundation in Critical Stylistic. So the feminist stylistic analysis, it has root in critical stylistic. And critical stylistic is the early version of critical discourse analysis. Feminist stylistics is influenced by the critical linguistic, which argue that language is not a neutral tool for conveying ideas but actively shapes and limit meaning. So they say, critical linguists, they say that language is not something that is neutral, right? But it is used to convey ideas. Fine. And these ideas are manipulated by the belief system of the writer or the author. So, feminist stylistics is influenced by the critical linguistic, which argue that language is not a neutral. Language is not something neutral, right? Tool for conveying ideas, but actually shapes and limits meaning. It's language which shapes your mind, which limit the meaning. So language is a social control. The words and structure used in text can reinforce societal ideologies and making certain perspectives seem natural or unquestioned. So when you stop question, right? So the things become natural. And when it becomes natural, you stop questioning, right? So, for example, you see the different roles have been given to man, and different roles have been given to a woman. And when these certain structures are repeatedly represented and presented in a text, finally you think this natural. You don't ask question that why, because it seemed to you natural. So, goal of feminist stylistic is draws on Halliday's systemic functional linguistic to challenge and transform how gender is depicted, aiming to reveal and resist power imbalances. Said by Sarah Mills, 1995. So, this is now actually the framework of feminist stylistic analysis. So when you are doing feminist stylistic analysis, so we have levels of analysis in feminist stylistic. First, we have words. You have to identify and examine gender specific pronouns. What kind of pronouns are used and what these pronouns refer to, what kind of gender, male or female, and generic terms. So I will show you these all things in practical analysis of when we are doing practical analysis of feminist stylistics. And naming practices. So words may carry hidden connotation that shape perception of gender. Phrases and sentences. Studies how linguistic structure reflect authors' worldview. For example, transitivity choices can portray characters as active, passive, or introspective, or powerless. Discourse analyze overall character portrayals and the use of vocabulary that fragments the female body, reducing to separate parts, and this fragmentation often presents the female body as an object for the male gaze. So, impact of feminist stylistic expands stylistic analysis beyond literary text to various forms of media such as newspaper and advertisements, which also shape ideas of gender. And we have then analytical tools provide tools for identifying and critiquing gender biases at all textual level, empowering readers to uncover hidden ideologies. So here we have a checklist when you're doing feminist stylistic analysis. You have to see, are the pronouns gender specific or gender neutral, right? So what will be gender neutral? For example, if you're using they, so that will be gender neutral. And if you're using he or she, that is gender specific. And which characters are referred to in gender specific pronouns and which one in gender neutral pronouns. The second date are the naming strategies gender specific or gender neutral, and how are female character named, and what verbal processes are associated with female characters, like we are talking about transitivity model, and what worldview about women does the distribution of verbal processes uh, perpetuate, and are female body parts described, and what descriptive vocabulary is used to qualify the female body? Is it described for the male gaze? And is the female body constructed as fragmentable and as a consequence consumable? And what worldview does the text perpetuate about man and women? So, in the next lecture, we will be doing stylistic analysis of literary texts, and that will be the text will be Handmaid's Tale, right? So, keep watching. If you have any question regarding to this lecture, please do ask your question in comment section. Thank you so much.